Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Game in Your Pocket. And this time it's a special episode because this is my own Game in Your Pocket. This is the prototype of my game Full Moon Fever. And as with all the other episodes of Game in Your Pocket, Full Moon Fever is pocket-sized, fast to set up and play. And if I can find some way to publish it, it will, of course, be affordable. Full Moon Fever is a werewolf horror game where you choose a character to go back to a small town and investigate the town and the mysterious Conroy mansion nearby, because you believe that there is a terrible secret, and while you do so, you also uncover your own secrets. There are 4 characters to choose from, all of them with their own background story. We have resource management, we have a risk and reward system, there is a complete combat and battle mechanic, and there even is a risk that the full moon fever will get to you and you will turn into a werewolf. There are special hidden items that will help you if you can find them, and if you get so far, you will encounter one of 2 final fight bosses. All that on 18 double-sided cards. So now, let's get the card out of the box. So in the box, you will find 4 cubes or another type of marker, and then we have a small instruction sheet with all the rules, and then 18 double-sided cards, and they are divided into 2 types. There are 4 special cards, and then there are 14 not identical, but the same type of cards with locations on one side and encounters and items on the other side. First, let's check out the first of the 4 special cards, and that is the tracker card here, with the resources you have to manage during the game. First, we have blood points, and blood points will say something about how you feel. If you are hurt, you are injured or something like that, you will lose blood points, and if you heal or just feel comfortable, you will gain blood points. If you reach 0 blood points, you will die. Then we have EXP, a combination of exploration and experience. These points say something about how much you're willing to explore and how much you know and how much you want to know. You use EXP to explore locations, and if you run out of EXP, you'll have to pass on locations to progress through the game. Finally, we have fever points, and these points tell you how you feel mentally. If you are scared, you will lose fever points, and the full moon will also affect your fever. If you feel more comfortable and safe, you will gain fever, and if you go to 0 fever, you will turn into a werewolf. Then we have the character card, and as I mentioned, there are 4 different characters, all of them with a special value in blood, EXP, and fever. And they also have a special ability, like Elizabeth Allen, for example, can use EXP to adjust fever. And another example, Robert Conroy here, he will be more effective when he fights with melee weapons. And then we have Betty, she's a nurse, she can heal herself. So you have to choose one of these characters. The third special card is the Night Tracker, and the card you have to use if you turn into a werewolf. The game will last 4 nights, and at the end of the final night you will encounter the boss if you are alive. The 4th and final special card is a card with the 3 special items you can find on one side, and on the other side the 2 different final bosses, and we'll get back to those if we're lucky. Now let's look at the 14 remaining cards. They have a location site with 2 locations where you can see the name of the location and then how many EXP points you have to spend to resolve the location. And if you resolve the location, there are certain effects. They can be good or bad, and both. And if we rotate it here, for example, we have the river where you can choose to gain blood or fever if you pay the EXP points. On the other side of all the cards is the encounter side. Here you will have a good and a bad encounter. herbs, for example, that will benefit you. And if we rotated an intoxicating drink, that is very unpleasant. So there is a good and a bad encounter on all of the cards. And then here an example, the Fortune Teller's Wagon. It's quite an expensive card in EXP, and it will benefit you a great deal, but there is also a special item that you will only find if you resolve the card, in this case, an old map. On the other side, we have painkillers, and then we have an encounter. If you meet the wild dog here, it has a blood value of 2 that you will have to overcome to defeat the dog. So if you can defeat the dog, you will resolve and get the bonus. And if you don't, you will lose the same amount of blood as the dog has. But we'll get back to that when we try the game. So let's set up the game and get started. And it's really fast to set up this game. We'll have the tracker card, and then we have to choose a character. So in this case, I will choose Betty, and I will put the special items behind the character card, and then put the character cards on the night tracker, hiding the werewolf form. Then we'll put the cubes on the tracker card. Betty has 9 blood, 11 EXP, and 10 fever to begin with, and we'll also put a cube on the first night. These values are only the starting value. You can easily exceed the starting value, but not go beyond the maximum of 14. The 14 location and encounter cards are shuffled, and when they have a good shuffle here, we'll draw 6 cards from the bottom. So 6 cards, and when you have drawn 6 cards, you'll just put the rest of the cards in a horizontal position like this. And then let's give the 6 card a good shuffle, so we are sure that we don't know where we begin, and put them here, and that will be our starting location. In this case, the forest. Now we're ready to begin the first night of Full Moon Fever. First thing to do is to check out the EXP cost of the top location card here. The forest has an EXP cost of 1, so that's a very cheap card. So if we spend 1 EXP, we can resolve the card. I will gain 1 blood but lose 1 fever, but I will also draw an encounter. And what you do is you draw the bottom card here of the encounter deck and rotate it. And then you check the arrows on the location card. In this case, they point towards the left. And when you flip the card over, you will take the orientation of the card that matches up with the arrows. In this case, it was the good side of the encounter card. I will get a rifle. That's one of the most powerful weapons in the game. And then I have resolved the first location. And then I find myself in the guest chamber of the Conroy Mansion. And I can easily afford this card. I will also gain blood but lose fever. So it's a bit critical with my fever points. But still, I am good. So I will pay for this card. I will gain blood, lose fever, and I will get another encounter. So let's see what is hiding in the guest chamber. And this time the arrows point towards the right, and that is really bad because here we have the first werewolf. We will encounter a werewolf with a blood value of 3. If I can defeat the werewolf, I will gain 2 EXP. If I have no weapons, I can choose to run away. That will cost me 3 blood points. It will always cost the same as the blood value on the encounter. I could afford to run away, but I could also use my rifle. My rifle will do 4 blood points of damage, so I can shoot the werewolf here, and that's what I'm gonna do. And then I will put it in the discard pile. And I will gain the EXP from the encounter. When a location is resolved or passed, you will put the location on top of the encounter deck and point the arrows in the opposite direction of the card already on top. So we'll put it here, and I just forgot that with the first location, the forest, so I'll find the forest here and put it on top of the encounter deck. Encounters and used weapons will go to the discard pile to the right. But let's get moving. The stairs in the Conroy Mansion, that's where I am, and that's a no-brainer card. I will spend 1 EXP and gain 2. And then I will apparently find a nice-looking drink that turns out to be an intoxicating drink. Not great. I will lose blood as well as EXP. Next up, I am outside the Conroy Mansion. The gate will cost me 2 EXP to explore, and I will gain EXP back, but I will also lose fever again. I could pass on this location. If you pass on a location, you will gain 1 EXP and still lose 1 fever. So the difference is not so big. And if I pass, I will not get an encounter. So I will pay for this card and I will see what happens. And of course, I will stumble into a bear claw trap, and that will draw 2 blood points away from me. And then I have resolved the gate. I apparently move down to the wine cellar of the mansion. Again, I will lose fever but gain EXP and blood. Yeah. So I will pay for this card and draw my EXP, and then I will see what kind of encounter I have here. There is a lock on the floor of the wine cellar, and that's nice. That's a weak weapon, but the alternative was way worse if I was stumbled into that very unpleasant werewolf. And now we have the final location of the first night. I have moved away from the mansion, and now I am in the town. More specific, in the town alley. I will spend 1 EXP, and I will find painkillers. I also lost blood, but I got my EXP back. I'll use the painkillers right away to gain blood. I could have saved them. It's possible to store up to 3 items. At the end of the night, I will move the night tracker and I will have to pay fever. And night will take its toll on your fever points, and in this case I will lose 1. And then the first night and round of the game is over. So what you do now is you count the discard pile, and if there are less than 6 cards, you will draw the number up to 6 from the bottom of the encounter deck. So you should always have 6 cards that will make up your night. And I begin my second night out in the fields. And that's another card that will give me blood but lose fever. I will still pay and resolve the card, and I will find an amulet. Not bad. I can use the amulet as a weapon against werewolves, or I can use it to gain 2 fever, and my fever is getting critically low. So far I will store this item in my inventory. As I mentioned before, I can carry up to 3 items. So I have the lock and I have the amulet. Then I'm at the front door, and that card will cost me 1 EXP and 1 fever if I resolve it. So in this case, I will choose to pass the card. I will still lose 1 fever, but I will gain 1 EXP if I pass on a location. But I will not be able to get an encounter. Maybe it was a wise choice, because here we have the Fortune Teller's Wagon. That will cost me a lot of EXP. I will get 1 back, but more important, I will also gain fever. And the most important thing is that I will find the old map. It's a special item that I can use only in the final boss encounter. So I will find the special items card and check out the old map here. I will have a surprise attack on the final boss. So I'll put the old map out beneath the character card so it's visible, and that way remind me that I have the old map now. And I will also, since I resolved the card, get an encounter. And that's way worse. I will now meet the pack leader werewolf. If I kill the werewolf, I will gain 3 EXP, but if I don't, I will lose 2 fever. Unfortunately, I know now that I cannot defeat the werewolf. I have a lock and I have the amulet that will do 3 blood points of damage, but that's not enough to kill the pack leader. I will still pay 2 blood points and I will lose the fever. So what I do is that I will use my lock. I can hit the werewolf with my lock, and that will do 1 damage, taking the werewolf down to 4. And then I will run away, and that will cost me 4 blood points. So I will not defeat and resolve the werewolf card. I will lose fever, but I still have my amulet, and I could have used it as a weapon. Instead, I will use it to gain some of my fever back. I am not in a great condition right now. After the encounter with the pack leader werewolf, I'm down by the river for a breath of fresh air. That one will cost me 2 but I will gain fever. And then I will draw an encounter, and that's a Stormhat Cloudy Flower that will gain EXP and 3 fever points. Great. I've got fever back, and I also get 1 EXP back, but I am low on EXP at the moment. Now, we'll see where to go next. From the river, I go back into the Conroy Mansion, into the dining room, and it's a great card. It will cost me 3 EXP, but I will gain blood and fever. If I pay this card and resolve it, I will have no EXP left, but I think it's worth it. That means that I have to pass on the next location, but I will gain fever and I will gain blood. And I will, of course, also see what encounter I will... Oh, it's a cane. That will do 2 damage, but only 1 if it's a werewolf I meet. So, next up I am in the garden, and I know I have to pass on this location. I will gain 1 EXP to pass, but lose 1 fever, and that will conclude my second night. At the end of the second night, I will lose 2 fever, but I can afford it. It will take me down to 6, so I'm decent in fever and also in blood, but very low on EXP before I begin my third night. Again, draw cards up to 6, and then shuffle the discard pile, and you can flip the cards around and rotate them, and we have our first location in the third night. I'm in the kitchen, and I have no choice here. I can't afford to resolve the location. I'll have to pass. That will gain 1 EXP, and I will lose 1 fever. Then I'm back down into the wine cellar. I have been here before, and I cannot afford this card either. Then I am back at the gate, and I will gain EXP if I pay for this card, but also lose 2 fever. And I really have to pay attention, because at the end of the third night, I will lose 3 fever points. And that's a very bad place to turn into a werewolf. But I will take the risk here, and I will see what I can find. Hopefully something good. Yeah, it's a torch. 2 damage. And I have a cane already, so now I have 2 weapons. That's good. So, where to go next? The balcony. Nice. It's a cheap location. I don't have many EXP, but I will pay and resolve this card. I will gain 1 blood, and out on the balcony I will find bandages for 3 blood points. I will use them right away, so blood points are now up to 13. That's great. Very high, but all the other resources I have are low, unfortunately. But now I'm in the piano room, and here I can gain fever. And that's highly necessary, because here at the end of night 3, I will lose 3 fever points. So let's resolve the card, and I will find a werewolf in the piano room. A werewolf with a blood value of 3. If I resolve defeat the werewolf, I will gain EXP, otherwise I will lose 1 fever. And I have 2 weapons. I have a torch and a cane. And if I combine these weapons, I can hit the werewolf twice, and I will defeat it. So that's what I'm going to do. I will gain EXP, avoid the fever loss, but now I'm out of weapons. So I'll just make a short jump here to the end of the third night. I will lose 3 fever, going down to 1, and I have some painkillers with me. And then I will shuffle and prepare for the fourth and final night. I'm very high on blood points, and that's always useful, but I'm also just about to turn into a werewolf with only 1 fever. I need fever bad. And this is good. Look at that. The attic will give me fever, but I will also use the last of my EXP. So let's begin with an encounter on the attic, and I will find an ice pick. It's no good against a werewolf, but still, I will keep it in my inventory, and then I will move along. I'm back in the town, and I have no choice here. I must pass on the town streets, so I will gain EXP and lose 1 fever. Then I'm in the alley again, and I think I'll have to resolve this card just to see if I can find an item that will give me fever. I will lose 1 blood, but that's okay, I have plenty. And what do I find here? I find a mysterious serpent. That's bad, but it's also kind of good because he has the old talisman special item. And I can defeat him. He has a blood value of 2, exactly the same as my ice pick. So I will stab the mysterious serpent with my ice pick. I will defeat him and I will get the talisman. And with that, I can do damage to the final boss for 4 blood points. And that's my second special item out of the 3 available. I now have 2 visible special items behind my character card. I will have the upper hand if I can reach the final boss. But let's see, I'm in the garden labyrinth now, and again, I will not be able to resolve this card. I'm out of EXP, I have to pass, and I will go down to 1 fever, and here is the disaster. I don't have EXP enough to resolve the trophy room, and even if I resolved it, I would also lose fever. I have no option here. I will lose fever, and that will transform me into a werewolf. And when that happens, you will stay in werewolf form for the rest of the night. So I will remove my character card and reveal the upper part of the night tracker, the werewolf form. And while I'm in werewolf form, I will be able to do 3 points of blood damage if I have an encounter. I will also take 1 less damage if I'm hit. When you're in werewolf form, you're forced to pay EXP for all the location cards, and if you don't have EXP left, you will instead pay with your blood points, and you will not have any effects out of the locations. You cannot gain items, and you will also lose all your items. In this case, I would have to move the painkillers, but I forgot to. At the end of the night, you will not lose any fever. You will wake up with your clothes torn and a bad headache, and you will regain half of your EXP and fever points rounded down. On Betty's trackers, that's 5 fever and 5 EXP. Sometimes it's an advantage to be in werewolf form, but most of the time, especially if it's early in the night, you will lose a lot of your resources and your items. But since this was the end of the 4th night, Betty is back in human form and she will now encounter the final boss. Let's see who she will find deep in the basement of the Conroy mansion. So what you do is you shuffle all the cards with the encounter side up, and then you draw a card, turn it around and check the EXP cost of the card, in this case 2. And then we can refer to the rules. If you draw a 2 or a 4, we will meet the final boss, Uncle Mortimer Conroy. He has 9 blood points and he has 4 different actions that he can do. He can defend attacks, he can do damage to blood and also to fever. And of course the 2 different bosses have different actions. And you also have final boss actions you can do. You can of course use special items, regular items and weapons. You can defend and you can also fight unarmed. If you choose to fight unarmed, you can spend up to 2 of your own blood points to do the same amount of damage on the boss. Now is also a good time to remember that I have the old map. I can do a surprise attack before the first round. So I will spend 2 blood points to fight unarmed, and then I will do damage to the uncle here. And I will have used the old map. In the first regular round of the final fight, we'll have to find out what to do. I will have to choose an action, and we also have to choose an action for Uncle Mortimer. These 2 actions will happen simultaneously. So let's see what the werewolf boss will do. I will attack with 2 blood, and he will do attack number 2. And attack number 2 will do 3 blood points of damage to me. So I'll adjust Uncle Mortimer's tracker here, and I accidentally removed 3 blood points from him instead of 2. Then I count 3 blood points down because of the damage he did to me, and then I will pay for my unarmed attack with 2 blood points. So all in all, I lost 5 blood points here in the first round. He lost 3. He should only have lost 2. Next action, I will attack again, and Uncle Mortimer will defend. That's really bad. Now I will lose my 2 blood points, but I won't do any damage. Maybe I should have used my talisman, but I still have it, so I will finish off this fight by using my special item talisman. I will do 4 points of damage to Uncle Mortimer. And what will he do? He will perform attack number 2 again, and this fight will end with the werewolf and Betty. They will throw themselves at each other. She will hold up the talisman, she will kill Uncle Mortimer, but he will also shred her down to 0 blood points, and they will both die. And that is unfortunately a possible ending in Full Moon Fever. You can of course defeat the final boss and you will win. You could also lose all your blood points before you meet the final boss. And we can check the rules to see the possible end of game options and also your final score, where you can count your remaining resources and special items you find and stuff like that, and that will give you a final score. A score that you, of course, can try to beat again, maybe with the same character, maybe with another character. So that was the first playthrough of my 18-card game Full Moon Fever. And I also already have the first expansion to this game ready. 6 more cards where you will get 2 additional characters to choose from, 2 new final bosses, the younger generation so to speak, and 4 location and encounter cards. These cards will really spice up the game, and in my experience, with only these 4 new locations, you will rarely visit the same location twice during the game. But it was a goal for me to keep the base game on just 18 cards. Thanks a lot for watching this Game in Your Pocket video. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you'll join me for future videos.